And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're so grateful to have everybody. And we got some breaking news to share with you tonight. And as many of you know already, we are in day 6 of Operation Fury, but that's not what's grabbing the headlines today. And we've got our dear friend Amy Miller on the line with us from South Dakota, Defense Department of Homeland Security Secretary. I would call her former now. Kristi Noem is out, and President Trump's making some changes, and I wanted to get Amy's take on this tonight because Kristi is from South Dakota, and we had talked about her when she was nominated, and I wanted to talk to her now that she's out. But it's good to see Amy Miller on the phone. How are you, friends? Good to see you. Sorry you got a cold tonight, but it sure is a pleasure to have you on this Thursday Night McFiles. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Amy, you know, I'm going to just get right to the point. I know that we saw you last year in South Dakota right after the election, and he had just nominated Kristi, and you were explaining. In fact, I think we even had you on the show, and you explained to the audience why you believed that he did this, and it had to do with some of the tribal lands there in South Dakota with the Native Americans. But I don't think everybody was really ever sold on her from the beginning, and I liked her. You know, I felt like she was a decent governor of your state, and you knew more about that background too than I did. I was just an outsider looking in. And I felt the same way about this Department of Homeland Security thing. I mean, I felt like on the surface, I trusted Trump's guts and Trump's instincts. But there was always this part of her that I don't think the American public could connect with. And I think these ads, ultimately, with her on the horse and talking bluster and almost like trying to, force this image that we were tough on illegal immigration. And then I think it all came to a head yesterday when she was in that Senate hearing, and she told Kennedy that, when he asked her about the $200 million price tag on this latest ad of hers, and she said, well, President Trump is aware of it, and Kennedy went to Trump, and Trump basically blew a gasket. That was the straw, and because he does not want the number one issue that he campaigned on to be taken through the mud and turned into some show and turned into some circus act. And I think that's what did her. But I think there were some other things that were working against her. And, I want to get your take on this because you're a good judge of character, and you also you saw some things probably from nobody else's perspective because you're from her state. And I want you to give me your take on that tonight because we're now facing a change at the Department of Homeland Security.
Yes. Well, and I own a property management company, and for 6 years I went to D.C., and so I met with Senator Thune, Senator Rounds, Congresswoman Noem at the time, and so I've met with them personally quite a few times, and I just always felt like she was great for our state. I'm so thankful we had her for COVID, but she's always been a person that has looked out for herself. And, the whole, I understand why President Trump was upset about the ads. You see what's happening in Minnesota, the fraud in the nation, and then to spend money frivolously like this, make yourself the center of it.
I know.
That's a lot of the things that she did in South Dakota. Her policies are great, but she's always putting herself at the forefront of everything. Her family's always been under scrutiny, and her son-in-law actually just came under scrutiny in South Dakota about some data being stolen. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but there's just always been scrutiny around her family.
Why do you think, let me ask you about the ads because they were very self-serving. I know she did this in South Dakota. Or do you think that Trump took a chance? Maybe he was one of these picks that he said, maybe this works out, maybe it don't. And because I was pretty fair across the board with all of these picks. I told our audience, give it time, give it a year. if this don't work out, Trump's not going to play around, because he's just not playing around this second term. I mean, his leash is very short, and I'm surprised she lasted this long. But do you see, what does she do now? I mean, I know this job that she's taken in the administration is like going from the inner workings of President Trump's Oval Office. This is like going down to the Motel 6 janitor store, isn't it? I mean, because she, I hate to use that analogy, but I think the motel janitor would probably almost be glad to take her job at this point, wouldn't you say?
Well, I had just seen an interview that she had done where she was saying in the interview that when President Trump was elected, he called her. I don't know if you saw that interview or not. And he asked her, because of her loyalty and she'd stood behind him, what position she wanted. Because I was surprised. I had my reasons why I felt he picked her for the Department of Homeland Security, but I actually was surprised because I thought she'd get like Department of Agriculture or something like that, because she was really big on ag in South Dakota.
That's a good point.
So I was more surprised on that than I was that he fired her. But in the interview, she told him, he said, what are you thinking you want to do? And she said, if I'm going to give up my family and I'm going to have to bring everything to D.C., I want something substantial to make it worth my time. And so according to that interview that she gave, that was supposedly why he gave her the job. I just, it's pretty easy, and I'm not in her shoes. I'm not trying to judge her, but it's pretty easy to have your bulletproof vest on and do these interviews and talk tough when you have security guards around you and you're standing in a prison. And I just don't think that bodes well with the American people, because she has always had an issue connecting with people. She had an issue connecting with South Dakota because she just comes across, like I said, policy's great, personality terrible.
Yeah. Do you believe that does she go back to South Dakota then to get back in the political office there, or has she burned the bridges up there in South Dakota?
I don't know. I had seen something that people are concerned that she's going to run for Senate and go against Rounds. I actually would not have a problem with that if she went back to the Senate. I'm really disappointed in Rounds. And one thing I do know about her policies, she stands for this country. She loves this country. I just think that she was in over her head with a Department of Homeland Security job.
I'm with you on that, and I think that's if there is something that President Trump leaves a lot to be desired, is that sometimes he picks people that are in over their heads, and I think Pam Bondi. We talked before the show a little bit tonight, and Pam Bondi is in that place, I think. I think the Attorney General of the United States is in that place, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's next, if this stuff keeps happening with the Epstein files and that sort of thing. Let me ask you about John Thune. I've been very disappointed in him. I remember him from the Bush years, and he struck me, at least, as a conservative senator, and it just seems like they get power, and they get to D.C., these lobbyists, these special interests get a hold of them. They start shaking hands with the Dems, they start shaking hands with their cronies, and all of a sudden, they just turn into these rhinos, and he's stopping right now the SAVE Act that will save this republic. Trump said that today. He told the Republicans, he said, it's going to save our republic to make sure that people are voting with an ID. And Thune and McConnell, but mainly Thune, is standing in the way of this. And he's not going to nuke that filibuster, which, Amy, would open the door for the Republicans. If they could get that filibuster nuked and set in motion these laws that President Trump has put in these executive orders, let me tell you something. Life's going to be very hard on the Democrats in the polls after this, if they do this. And I don't know why they don't do it. But what is it about him, and what have you seen because he's from your state of South Dakota as well. What's going on with John Thune?
Well, John Thune has never made it a secret since day one when President Trump announced he was running for presidency in 2016. Thune has never liked Trump. When Noem was here in the state, she had a great big 4th of July celebration, and President Trump and Melania came, and it was a huge deal in Mount Rushmore. And Thune went, and he was front and center, but boy, he drug his feet. He has never liked President Trump. He's never made any qualms about it in our state. He's never done anything to support President Trump's policies. When the whole election situation of 2020 happened, I have my beliefs that there was a lot of fraud that took place. He had no interest in getting to the truth. And so he's never made it a secret that he doesn't like President Trump. So I'm not surprised by what we're seeing.
This is personal then. This is not even political. This is personal.
Yes, this is personal. He's never liked President Trump.
Has he ever expressed why?
He feels like President Trump is just not a moral man. And I've met John probably 10 times. I've sat in his office in D.C. And I can tell you from when he first went to office to where he is now, he's not the same person. I could go again in March. I just have no desire. I have no desire. What am I going to say that's going to make a difference? I've prayed with him. He's not the same man. He has been bought by D.C.
Well, in saying that, it's sort of the pot calling the kettle black to have a politician say another politician is not a moral man. That's the most hilarious thing I've heard in my days on this earth, that somebody from D.C. in the swamp would be complaining about morals of our president, who is not a perfect man, but there is none of them up there perfect. And like you said, there's money that's probably been funneled through his campaign and funneled through his coffers to get him to act like he's acting. And, if I'm the Republicans, it only takes 5 senators to call a meeting, call a vote, and they get another leader. And I think that's what they should do. I would almost wish Christie would run against him. I'd be okay with Noem replacing him and get another strong conservative to get rid of Rollins. I don't know what it is about, because y'all are red, are you not? I mean, South Dakota is a red state federal. Y'all are a safe red state, at least we thought. But it's these rhinos, Amy, that drive you nuts, because that should be a strong portion of the conservative movement is from South Dakota, right?
Well, and you think about it, 2 of America's biggest leaders are from South Dakota. That's what's so crazy, before Noem lost her job today.
That's very true.
Two of the biggest congressional leaders are from South Dakota. And I agree with you. If she ran against Thune, like I said, I think that's a great place for her. I just think she was in over her head. And I just think because she does have vanity issues, she's got personality issues, she just does not communicate well with people. I think that's the best place for her, is just bringing in laws and legislation for our state.
Let me shift gears on you a little bit. We're in day 6 of Operation Fury, and I wanted to get your take on what's going on in our nation right now. This conflict should be President Trump is giving indication that this is not going to be a protracted war. We're not putting boots on the ground. We're not nation building. And I trust him in that. But when all this started over the weekend, what was your gut on this? Is what's happening? And Israel is involved. And it just seems like that everybody that wants to blame Israel for everything, they're blaming Israel for this, claiming that Israel got us into this war. But Amy, I don't believe that for a second. In fact, Trump himself said yesterday, 2 days ago, that he actually brought Israel into this war, because Trump was going to do this with or without Israel's help, and he got Bibi to go along with him. And what is it right now that it just seems like this anti-Semitic hate that is raging in this country, that nothing Israel does is right, and they get blamed for everything that goes on here in this country? I've never understood that, and it's a spirit, is it not?
It is, and as a believer, I think it's exciting times. In the last days, there will be wars and rumors of wars, and that's what you are seeing. And for me, I'll be honest with you, I none of us want war, but I was having my concerns about President Trump, that he was starting to kind of flip against Israel, that he wasn't taking enough of a stance. And I am thankful that he understands how important it is to protect Israel. And I understand that he brought Israel along, but I just appreciate the fact that he's a president that understands that we need to take care of Israel.
Yeah.
And I believe that God's hand is on him because of that reason.
No, I'm with you 1,000,000% on that. And I think that if there's any, because I was feeling the same thing you were. I was telling our Bible students this morning, I get very concerned when I hear peace accords and Middle East in the same sentence. And because we know there's coming a huge peace covenant between the Antichrist and Israel at some point. We don't know who the Antichrist is. We don't know when what point is either, whether it's sooner or later. But as long as the church is here, it's not going to happen. And look, the very fact we're over in the part of the world, we just celebrated Purim Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night, and the very fact that we celebrated that feast day and about the great courage of Esther and Mordecai that staved off the annihilation of the Jews, and they staved it off in Persia, which is modern-day Iran, I would say that's pretty prophetic to me, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely is right. Listen, let me ask you about the country. What's your thoughts on the nation tonight? Where we're at as a country, and we're going to be coming to see you guys in April, looks like, and looking forward to seeing our South Dakota family up there again. And it's going to be a good weekend of faith and all. But where do you see faith right now in our nation? Is this usually when you have a conflict in a country, I mean, I was thinking about this today a little bit. Usually when you have a conflict in a country, people tend to draw closer to God because they get fearful, of things that may be happening. I haven't seen that with this. It's been really weird. It's almost like the country is taking a nonchalant attitude about this situation in Iran, and it's almost like it's not moving the needle at all. And I don't know what to think of that. I mean, I've got some opinion about it, but what's your thoughts on that?
When President Trump gave his State of the Union speech, which I think was the best speech he's ever given, I woke up in the morning. I was just curious to see what the news media was going to write about it. And, of course, it was the usual. He didn't do anything to unite the nation, that he's further divided us. And I was getting ready for work, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me just as clear can be. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, you don't unite with sin. We're so worried about a country divided that we're not united. We don't unify with sin. And we should be a divided country because there's two sides in life. There's good and evil. And you either stand for godliness and righteousness, or you stand for evil. And that's what you're seeing in our country right now. You cannot be a born-again disciple of Christ and not be able to see the difference between good and evil in this nation. There is, it seems like there's always been, up until now, kind of a gray area for the church. There's no gray area. God has not left any gray area. There's a line drawn in the sand, and you are either for him or you are against him. And that's where the anti-Semitism is coming in. I just think that we're in an hour where God is revealing the hearts of man. And it just really shows me we have such a mission field in this country. It's just so important that we are focused on God's word, that we are not looking to the right or to the left. Something that's been just focused has just really caught my attention. The Bible, every word in the Bible means something. And how many times have you heard the story about David and Goliath? How many times have you read that? How many times did you read that to your kids and your grandkids growing up? When you read that story, it tells us twice in Scripture that the armor bearer was before Goliath. So in order for David to get to Goliath, there was an armor bearer in front of Goliath. But when you watch the movies, you don't see that. When pastors preach about that, they don't talk about the armor bearer that was in front of Goliath. Why? Because David was so focused on what God had for him that the armor bearer didn't matter. And we as a body of Christ have become so focused on the armor bearer that we're forgetting the Goliath that he called us to slay.
That's very true. Boy, that's powerful stuff. That's so well said. So well said. So well said. Um, it's funny. You mentioned the line in the sand. Is it fair to say that how not just the nation treats Israel, but how believers treat Israel? Do you believe that God is drawing that line in the sand for believers as well, to see where they come down on and to see if they have a heart for His people, despite their people being His people being out of His will, but yet the church brags and this replacement theology, how we've replaced the Jews and we've replaced them in this plan, but yet, Amy, the Bible doesn't teach that. Look, Israel's in a mess. They're going to be in a mess really through the Great Tribulation period. But I do believe the same is said about believers, that He's separating the sheep from the goats already. And it's where our hearts are at in this, and whether we're going to pray and stand with the Jewish people, because Esther had to make a choice whether she was going to stand for such a time as this, or she could have been silent and her people perished. And Mordecai told her, he said, you've got to go to the king. And I think the message I take from that tonight is the church has got to get to the king. The church has got to find the king's and enter into his presence and cry out for his people tonight, that they be saved, first of all. But yes, that He continue to protect them and that He covers them, because in doing that, I believe we're bringing blessing on ourselves. What do you say about that?
I agree with that. And we have a prayer group that's been meeting every Wednesday night and just praying in the Spirit, praying for our nation, praying for our families. And we are in the last days, and I believe that Christ is coming for an Acts 2 church. And I believe that He is separating the wheat from the chaff. And you are seeing, like, people that you thought were godly men and women, and you're seeing where they stand. God is not playing games. He's coming back for a glorious church. He's coming back for a victorious bride. And to me, that means that it's not going to matter in this last hour if you're Episcopalian or Baptist or Lutheran or Catholic or Pentecostal. He's coming back for a glorious church. And that to me means that there's not going to be a denomination that matters. It's going to be Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I just... the body of Christ is not watching and sober-minded right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever. Well, listen, I know you got a call. I'm going to let you go, but thank you for this little insight about Noem. And is there any predictions you've got as to who the next, what Trump's going to do with the rest of his cabinet? Does everybody else survive this year? Or do you think there's more of this coming?
I would like to see something with Bondi. Every day you wake up, there's a new headline. But I will tell you, that Epstein is not going away, and he's going to have to figure out how to handle it. They either just need to rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with, but it's not going away. And I just feel like there's just a lot of things that are not being dealt with. People are tired of seeing the fraud be exposed and nothing happening. People are tired of seeing no justice being done. And I think I saw something today that the auto pen investigation is done, and there won't be any criminal charges brought. People are just tired of the talk and the rhetoric and nothing being done. Yeah,
I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you on that, and we'll see how this all plays out. Well, listen, buddy, I appreciate you being with me, and I hope to see you next Friday night. If you can stay up to come and pray with us again on our late night watch, and thank you for that. And we're looking forward to seeing you here in about a month, okay? And get better with that cold. Get better with that cold. Give my love to all your family and all the folks in South Dakota, and tell them get their raincoats out, get their umbrellas out, because the last time I came, y'all were in the middle of a drought like you are. I left, and Sioux Falls flooded the next week. Correct?
That's correct.
So we won't prophetically predict that this time, but tell them to get the raincoats out. That's all I got to say, both spiritually and physically, okay? How about that?
That sounds great.
Bless you, Amy. Have a good night, my friend. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much for being with us. Amy Miller, everybody. Put some fire in that house. We're so grateful for her being with us tonight, and we hope you enjoyed her, and so forth. And, folks, some of you have got so... ill. You just do not be putting paragraphs like you're putting them. I'm going to have to do this, and I don't want to do it, but we don't need paragraphs. By the time people read your paragraph, I could have said 16 things. But anyway, we accidentally aired on the Faith Network tonight, and not the news side. We're airing on both, so I'm monitoring the news. But listen, I'm going to come over to here. I'm going to actually tonight, on this Thursday night, we're going to take some questions from you because we're not going to keep you long tonight. We had a computer glitch again today, the one that we really was working on. We've had to go back to the old one, and thank God it didn't do too bad tonight, but we was going to have a special guest, and we weren't able to do that. But if you've got a question or two, I'm going to take a few questions here. We're going to wrap it up tonight shortly. We're not going to have a long show tonight. Go ahead and put those in the chat and so forth. And it's good to see everybody in the house, and I'm noticing some of the comments, and I'll just read a few of those. Someone said that new Supreme Leader was short-lived. Well, they're all going to be short-lived. They're all going to be short-lived. Sandy, he did give her a new position as far as Noem goes. He did. And we'll just see how that plays out. I don't know if that was just a token. I'm sure it was a token thing. But I think that she's probably headed back to Senate politics up in South Dakota. Ultimately, that's what I believe. I do have a couple of videos I want to play tonight, and it is funny. And I do want to put this up right here. Hang on just a second. I want to put this graphic up. And tonight, the Muslim world is divided. I want you to look at this. This is so crazy. Jordan, Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, and Bahrain are all Arab nations that are in favor of what Israel and the United States is doing in Europe, in the Middle East, I should say, with this Iran situation. Great Britain, Canada, France, and Spain are allies, so to speak, and they're against the removal of this regime. The Democrats today, there was a vote in Congress, 363 to 54. Or 53. 53 Democrats refused to call the Iranian nation a nation of terror or a terrorist regime. Refused to do it. And, but that list right there is eye-opening. And this is what America is up against right now. And so forth. I want to play one video from CNN tonight. I thought it was funny. I think they were asking, I think this is the one. This is CNN tonight, Abby Phillips.
For the statistics that zero
Hasselback.
released into the U.S. for 10 months straight have not crossed, okay? That nearly 3 million aliens have left the United States, that we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, that fentanyl trafficking is down 56% at the border, and daily encounters have gone down 96%. Hang on one second. We need a strong border, especially now with our current global situation. And I believe that you may say you don't want border control and you're against ICE, but I actually don't believe you in your daily lives. How many people in the audience here had to go through security to get here? Raise your hand. Just be honest. Otherwise, you go to jail, I guess, for illegal trespassing, right? This is an authorized audience. They had to go through security to get through the border, to get right here, to just hear us talk. We need strong borders more than ever right now. We are being infiltrated.
But listen, can I give you a simple border when Renee Good and Alex Peretti were murdered, and death is not a mistake.
They were not murdered.
Let's not be dismissive about the
I'm not dismissive. I just said all their lives matter.
See, and this is how they always do it. They always go back to Peretti and Good as the sign that ICE is not doing its job. No, I would argue what Ms. Hasselbeck argued, that the people that got killed by illegal aliens were murdered too. These people on The View, how that show was still on the air, I do not know. I don't care to know. But it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Now, this is Abby Phillips. We're going to try to get this downloaded right. It's not downloading the way I want it to. Let's see if this one downloaded correctly. This is Abby Phillips tonight asking a stupid question and getting a great answer from Scott Jennings. Roll tape.
If bombs dropping on the nuclear program and destroying them last year didn't help move forward those objectives of deterring the regime, why do we think that suddenly this is going to do the same thing?
Because the people who weren't deterred are now dead.
Because the people that were deterred or not deterred are now dead. Way to go, Scott Jennings. Mic drop, boom. That's why. 54 of them. 54 of them. So they're deterred now. They're deterred now. Anyway, all righty. Any other questions? Any other statements that we want to dive into? And we'll take questions here. Lorenzo, Texas is not in grave danger in November. I see your question. I'm going to chime in on that. No. Texas is not in grave danger in November. We're going to have Leslie Millwee on. Leslie may be with me tomorrow night again. We're trying our best to get this computer situation straightened out when we're down here. And we had the laptop percolating, and it just stopped percolating this afternoon. It's almost like a demonic attack on it. So I'm back on the dinosaur here tonight. But if we're on tomorrow night, it'll be by phone. But we talked about this Tarico, this guy that took out Jasmine Crockett. And he is as crazy as she is. I'm not so sure he ain't female himself. The only difference in him and her is that he's not as racially charged as she is. But he does not believe in two genders. He believes that God's binary. His theology, I don't even know where he gets his theology from. Whether it's Cornyn or Paxton, I think either one of those they mop up the floor on him. I would not believe that the state of Texas would put that man in the Senate. I hear this every year, every election cycle. The media spooks the electorate that Texas is going blue. They did it with Beto O'Rourke. To be frank with you, the only reason Beto O'Rourke's race with Ted Cruz was so close was the fact that Ted Cruz had ticked off a lot of conservatives with the comments he made about President Trump in 2016 and 2020, actually. It was 2016 going into 2020, but things got hot and heated with Cruz during that first run of Trump, and people were mad, and a lot of people stayed home. That's why Beto came so close to beating him. But if you look at the overall vote tallies in Texas over the last 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, these races ultimately have not been that close. I will say I have not understood Al Green and Jasmine Crockett. That goes to redistricting. It goes back to those districts. But when the primaries are telling, but when the general election comes around, Republicans usually put their little childish differences aside and go to those polls and vote right, for the most part in Texas. Where we really make fundamental change in the direction of the country is in those primaries. And sadly, because we don't vote right in the primaries, a lot of these demagogues like Cornyn and these other guys that have been there for decades, they stay in power because there's really nobody worth challenging them. And they get entrenched in D.C., and it's hard to get them out. But I don't believe Texas is in danger, no. That's my opinion. Now, this is March the 5th. Ask me again in September before the midterms, Lorenzo, I might have changed my mind by then. But as of now, I wouldn't listen to the blather of the media. They're just a bunch of liars as it is. You heard the ladies on The View. They couldn't handle that question. What Hasselbeck was telling him, she was told him, said, you had to get permission, you had to get a security clearance to come and sit in the audience of this show. And you're telling me that you're against open borders when you yourself won't allow people into this show that don't have to go through a security clearance to come listen to us talk. That's the media for you. It's a bunch of hypocrites, a bunch of demonic, lying sack of hypocrites. And the media will have you convinced that the sky is falling, the rain is falling, and Republicans are in disarray. The media is out there pushing the lie tonight that Iran's winning the war. They're pushing the fact tonight that the Republican Party is divided about the war. No, we're not. Trump's got a 86 approval rating among his own party. That's the highest approval rating probably in the history of presidents. Obama only had 77 in this time of his second term. Bush had 77. Trump's got 86. It's not dividing us. It's uniting us. So I wouldn't worry about Texas, my friend. As long as people get out and vote. As long as people get out and vote. That's the key. That is the key. That is the key. Got to get out there and vote. Anyway. All righty. Listen, we're grateful for you being with us tonight. I am actually going to call it a night here in a minute. Because of the computer situation, Amy came on at the last minute, and I'm so grateful that she did tonight. We were going to have Bob Mannis. He's going to be with me Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. Bob is a military intelligence guy. You're going to love him. We got Gene Albert from the Bible Museum coming Tuesday night of next week. Sherry Caudell, our dear friend, who was dear friends with Mary Catherine Baxter, is coming with us one night next week. And we're going to be talking with her about Mary's legacy. 50-year anniversary this coming week of the events that took place in that book, A Divine Revelation of Hell. And it may be Monday week when we do it, but we will have her on very soon. And then the end of the month, it will be after we get back from Dalton, Ohio. Dalton, Ohio's March 27th to 28th. But March 30th, that's Monday night, the last Monday night of this month, we will start our spring revival that will air on our networks. And it will be just like it says. It'll be a revival. And we're going to have a great month of faith. And we got some great guests coming. We've got some new guests that we're working on getting and some other people. And we hope that the flyers that we put out and the feelers we put out from the NRB, some of them will answer back. I do know that there's a lot of people in Israel tonight that would love to talk to us. They're just in bomb shelters every night. And just as soon as that calms down, they're going to be on to tell us about the situation there. And there's going to be a lot of nights this month that are double feature nights, double header nights, early birds, late shows. Tonight is not one of them because we're coming up in about 9 minutes of being done. I'm giving you a chance if you got any kind of question. The day of the Lord, you're saying, will Pam Bondi be next? Yep. I think that if I had to put any kind of money on that, I would say, yeah, I think so. Pat Isaac says the thing that bugged me with her, not only was she on TV a lot, but out in the field, she made big dangling. Well, Pat, her appearance, that was Kristi Noem, though. That's just Kristi Noem. I know some people had a problem with that. And, I'm not going to get into that. I mean, I know that's, and I mean, you're entitled to your feeling, hon. I'm not saying, that I'm sure others felt the same way about her like you do, but that's just being who she is. I wear this cowboy hat from time to time. I got people that get upset with me for wearing a cowboy hat. And the way you look and the way your appearance is just, that's just personal. I'm more concerned about her policy. I'll agree with Amy. Her policies were not bad in South Dakota. I think she just got in over her head. And this is my take, Pat, about what you're saying. I think that she felt like that charm and the big earrings and the makeup and the hair, because it played well in South Dakota, because South Dakota is a Midwestern state. But she was very popular as a governor, very popular, very loyal to President Trump. I think that she got into D.C., and this is just an opinion, and I don't want to get myself in trouble with what I'm about to say. There's 1,000 Kristi Noems in D.C. There's 1,000 women that look just like her that are more popular because they're not loyal to President Trump. So it didn't play well in the Northeast, and she didn't play well in the liberal West. She didn't play well in a lot of places in the country that are not Trump people. So it ultimately proved to be her downfall. But I'll just say this. I was never on board with her fully, but I don't think she did a horrible job either. I know there's people out there that are just, even Fox News tonight, Laura Ingraham was sort of making some comments that were not the kindest about her. I just felt like the ads did not help the cause of illegal immigration. Those ads were a circus, and it would have been better to put that $220 some odd million that they paid in an ad. You think about this, think about the optics of the fact, and I think Amy brought it up. The Trump administration is screaming right now about the fraud in Minnesota, as they should be. It's very hard to scream about the fraud in Minnesota and the millions and the millions and the billions of dollars up there that's been wasted when you got your Department of Homeland Security head paying $220 million for an ad that's basically a commercial for her. So I think that was the tipping point. And when Kennedy went to Trump yesterday, they say he was mad as could be about it, and that was that. I don't believe that she was the worst Department of Homeland Security. I'll put it like this, Pat. You give me Kristi Noem any night over Mayorkas, the one we had. I'd take Bugs Bunny over him. And Mullen is not a bad choice, but it remains to be seen how good of a Homeland Security head he'll be. Because being a head of a department is not the same as being a senator. It's not the same as being in Congress and voting every day and dealing with that. And I would never Monday morning quarterback because I wouldn't know. I can't understand the responsibility that you have with all this. So I think we would be wise to give her a little grace. Give her a little grace and just know that I think Trump made the right decision. I think it was time. And the other question about Bondi being next, I think that Bondi's on borrowed time. I'll just leave it at that. I may be wrong about that. It may be somebody else that shocks us. I tell you what's happening that's bothering me, more concerning than the cabinet situation, is all these senators retiring. The gentleman up in Montana, Raines, tonight is not seeking re-election. That's 9 senators, I think, on the Republican side that are not going to be seeking re-election next year. And that's going to make this whole midterm wide open. And that's why we have got to put good people in those slots and get out and vote. And get out and vote. And make sure that we're registered to vote now. Make sure that we're registered to vote now. So, anyway. Danny, do I think his spiritual advisory board is in trouble? What do you mean in trouble? I don't see him getting rid of them. And guys, let me just say this about that spiritual advisor. Roger, I'm going to address your comment. It's a good one after I do this. I think we overestimate that spiritual advisory board. Every time something bad happens in the cabinet or bad happens in the country, that spiritual advisory board gets blamed for it. President Trump's his own man. He's the president of the United States. My take on Donald Trump, and I don't know him personally. I've talked to people that do know him personally. Trump is a businessman. He takes advice from a lot of people, including that board. But ultimately, Trump is the kind of person, and I'm like this to a degree, drives my family crazy sometimes. I get advice from a lot of areas. I don't act quickly on advice. I chew on it, pray about it, and sometimes if I don't get an answer, I don't do anything. And I'm very slow to move sometimes. And Trump's the same way. This thing with Iran was not planned quickly. The thing with the Abraham Accords was not planned quickly. I don't know if y'all remember this during his first term. When he went into North Korea that night, it was on a Monday night. We had James R. on late. We and him were on at 1 o'clock in the morning when that happened. I never will forget it. He had already made the document they signed had already been set up before he ever walked into that moment. He was not doing that haphazardly. He was not just saying, I need a shot for the camera, so I'm going to go see Kim Jong-un in North Korea. No, he had already laid the groundwork for that moment. And that's why I worried more about the Spiritual Advisory Board probably early in his presidency than I do now. Are they in trouble? I'm not going to say they're in trouble. I don't know all the voices that are on there. I think that Trump looks at them like he does any other board that he's got, any other area of advice. I think he chews on what they tell him. And, you can only hope that the advice, I'll put it like this, Danny. If they're giving him good advice, I pray he takes it. If they're giving him horrible advice, I pray he rejects it. That's how I pray. David did that. When somebody, because David was not just a spiritual figure in the Bible, you've got to remember David was king. He was the political leader of Israel as well as too. And Epiphanel went to David, gave him advice. It was not sound advice. David rejected it. Epiphanel got jealous, got angry, betrayed David. And David literally prayed a prayer to the Lord. He said, Lord, let his counsel fall to the ground. Because he was going out trying to get people to rise up and rebel against David and lead a coup. And when he finally found that didn't happen, Epiphanel did, he hung himself. So leaders can get bad advice. But it's not just that spiritual advisory board that I think he gets bad advice from sometimes. And I'm not trying to extol the spiritual advisory board, but I think we use them sometimes as a scapegoat. And we need to realize that the buck stops with Trump. The buck stops with Trump. He's got to make these decisions, and it's on him. They're not running the country. I've never thought they ran the country. And that's just my take, Dan, whatever that means. No, they're not in trouble. I wouldn't say they're in trouble. No more than anybody else is in trouble in D.C. Are they good or bad? I guess you have to make your own decision about that. I used to worry about them a lot more than I do right now. I pray personally that God speaks to Trump directly. He don't need that spiritual advisory board to be speaking to Trump. God can deal with Trump's heart. God, the Bible says in the Proverbs that the Lord controls the heart of the king. And I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. And we just need to pray that Trump hears from God on these matters. I believe he's hearing from God with this situation in Iran. I do. I believe what he's doing is dismantling a nation of terror. And I love what Amy said tonight. Look, if there was any question in anybody's mind where he stands on Israel, what he's doing in Iran should put those fears to rest a little bit tonight, because Israel will never be more safe. I'm not saying she's going to be, let me rephrase that. She will be safer after all this is over than she's been in 50 years. Because she's had an enemy that has been promising to nuke her into the Mediterranean Sea and wipe her off the map, as they've promised to do us. So whenever we take out Israel's enemies and we don't side with Israel's enemies like Joe Biden did and Obama did and Clinton did and Bush Jr. did at times, I'm good. I'm good. Now, Roger, to your point, you said I've heard that the newly elected supreme leader is now dead. That's we're checking into that. I hadn't heard that. I've heard that. We're double checking that. Everything is happening so quickly. I'll put it like this, Roger. Sorry. I think there's a lot of people at the unemployment line tonight in Iran that no longer have jobs. And you know, when you go to the unemployment line and you collect unemployment, they tell you you've got 30 days, you got to put in so many job applications for you to keep your benefits going. I'll put it like this, that in Iran tonight, I don't think there's anybody looking to get benefits by putting in their name for another job in that cabinet, because the next man up is the next man dead. And there's one leader, NBC was talking to the foreign leader tonight, and he was bragging. And he's saying, we've been waiting for this all along. The Americans can do what they want to do. We're not going to be moved by this. And we've been waiting for this. And we got surprises and this and that and the other. And I heard the military guy on Fox tonight, I can't think of his name, but he made the comment, said, yeah, that's what 59 other leaders said this week. They were saying the same thing, and you see where they're at. I like what Scott Jennings said. And Abby Phillips being a smart aleck and saying, well, these bombs are not affecting anybody, that if this didn't deter them the last time, why didn't it do it this time? Or you think it's going to do it this time? And perfect answer, because the people that weren't deterred the first time are dead. They're dead. All righty. One final thing tonight. And this is not spiritual, this is not newsworthy to most, but growing up as a kid, my favorite all-time show was The Batman. And tonight is the 66th anniversary of the first ever episode of The Batman. And I'll put it like this. I'm going to play this little clip. This is the Joker in this scene is Iran tonight, and Batman, that was played by Adam West, is America. Roll the tape.
Oh, you can say that over the phone, Batman, but if I had you here, I'd pound you to a pulp. Start pounding, Joker.
I'm sorry. That's Iran tonight. If we had you here, that's what the foreign minister was saying. You Americans, come on over here. We'll pound you to a pulp. Well, 60 years ago, the first ever Batman episode aired. I love this show I got to play that again. The Batman is Donald Trump.
Oh, you can say that over the phone, Batman, but if I had you here, I'd pound you to a pulp. Start pounding, Joker.
I'm sorry. Because we're over there. So start pounding, Joker. Start pounding, Iran. I know that not all of y'all watch The Batman. It's okay. I love The Batman. He fights crime. Anyway. All righty. And folks, when you comment, please keep your comments to a sentence or two. I ain't got time to read paragraphs. We'll just play by ear. And let me just say this about Pam Bondi, folks. I'll say the same thing about Pam Bondi I said about Christy Noem. Pam Bondi's not been the worst attorney general we've ever had. I'll take her over Eric Holder. I'll take her over Merrick Garland. I'll take her over anybody the Democrats have ever had. Loretta Lynch. Pam Bondi may not be perfect, but I do not believe that, this is my opinion, that she's been that bad for America. She's not done some things right. There's no doubt about it. She fumbled this Epstein thing, and the more that this drags out, and she's released some more files tonight, 47,000 more files. I don't know what's in it. I'm with Amy on this. It's best we just get it out in the open. But let me just say this about the Epstein files, and I'm going to say it again till I'm sick. I cannot seem to get away from this on this show because people bring it up. Folks, ultimately, the Dems want those files released for one purpose. They've known what was in these files. Merrick Garland could have done this for 4 years under Biden, and if there was any whiff of any wrongdoing by Trump, they would have already been released. If they thought they could get something on Trump. Look, the Clintons made a mockery. They made a mockery of America by going before that committee this week. That committee was a waste of time. They knew the Clintons were going to lie under oath. The Clintons lied under oath. Not a word that either Bill or Hillary said was true. Nothing. I don't think there's anybody in this chat room tonight, if I was to ask you the question, do you think that Clinton was not aware of the crimes that Epstein committed? Do you believe Hillary Clinton didn't meet Jeffrey Epstein? Of course we don't believe that. But as we talked with Leslie about Monday night, you got to prove it. And I don't think anybody's serious about really getting to the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. All this is a witch hunt to get some flesh and blood so the American public can sit back in their smugness and say, well, somebody finally went to prison for what happened. Well, somebody is in prison. Her name is Ghislaine Maxwell. She is the one that knows what really happened, and she's not talking. If the day comes that Ghislaine Maxwell was to come out and tell the truth, and names started dropping, and let me remind you about Prince Andrew, folks. Prince Andrew did not get arrested for crimes related to Jeffrey Epstein, except for basically giving Epstein state documents. His crime was revealing state document secrets, and the same way with the ambassador, they were passing officially sanctioned state secrets to Epstein for influence, and he was using those to blackmail people. That's what they were doing. But as far as anybody that has actually been implicated with actual testimony in a courtroom to where somebody's going with handcuffs and saying, we know that you sex trafficked those girls on that island, there's been nobody except Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, don't get mad at me about this. That's why this fury with the Epstein files is going to keep going until they can find something to pin Trump with it. That's the whole reason this is going on. And many Republicans are pushing this for that same reason. They're salivating to get Trump in their crosshairs. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene keeps bringing it up. That's why Owens, Tucker, all of them. That's why everybody wants to, Massey in Kentucky can't stand Trump's guts. McConnell can't stand Trump, so they're wanting to keep this fire going. If Trump wasn't in this picture, ask yourself a question. Do you think the Epstein files would really matter to the Democrats? If Trump wasn't president tonight, do you really think we still have this fervor over a dead pedophile? I'm just asking for a friend. I'm just asking for a friend. No, we wouldn't. They had a chance. They had the Attorney General's office. Merrick Garland could have pulled these files out. He could have released every single file. And I know this, that he looked at those files. He didn't see anything. That's why they didn't do it. That's why they didn't do it. They didn't have nothing to get Trump on. Folks, they tried to impeach him after he was out of office twice, threw him in jail, charged him with every crime in the book, tried to kill him twice. That didn't work. Do you not think they would have tried the Epstein angle? So why are we so fervently worried about the Epstein files? You can't hang that on Pam Bondi. Did she handle everything right with it? No, she didn't. She should have just kept her mouth shut at the beginning, done her job, stopped going on Fox, stopped trying to be a prima donna, just like Kristi Noem was trying to be. You saw where they got Kristi, and it's probably going to get Pam Bondi in the same crosshairs if she keeps on. Do your job. Do your job. Am I happy with the job Pam Bondi's done? Not totally. But we could have worse. we could have a worse attorney general than Pam Bondi. I think we as Christians need to understand this tonight. Our focus is not on this earth. Our focus is in heaven. We better be more concerned about the spiritual condition of our country and the spiritual condition of our hearts than we are the spiritual condition of a dead pedophile that's burning in a place tonight that none of us want to go to. And you say, how do you know that he went there? Well, ultimately, 100%, I can't be sure because I don't know if he maybe said a prayer at the very last second. Lord, forgive me for raping, murdering, and blackmailing, and being corrupt, and doing the things I did to these girls. I don't know if he had a come to Jesus moment before he died. Nobody knows that. But just based upon what we do know, Jeffrey Epstein didn't know the Lord. And his judgment, folks, before the Lord is going to be far worse than anything he would have experienced on this earth. As it goes for all of us if we don't know him tonight. And I just find our focus to be so, it's like we're in this fog. It's like the Christian church in America, the things that we should really be focusing and concerned about, we're not, but the things that really ultimately don't matter to a hill of beans in eternity. In eternity. We will lose our lunch over. We will lose our lunch over. And we need to ask ourselves the question, why? I ask myself that question, why, every day? What's important, Lord? What's important eternally? And I can tell you right now, the fate of Epstein is sealed. The judgment has been set for him, and the books will be open. I pray for Ghislaine Maxwell's soul. I pray that somewhere in this journey that Ghislaine Maxwell finds Christ. She knows where all of the secrets are. She knows the truth. She's probably one of the very few people that actually know the full truth in God himself. And without her, all these other things are just accusation. And these victims that have talked, some of them have been found to be very inconsistent with their stories, and they've changed names, they've changed dates. And that's why a lot of this has been hard to pinpoint legally. You can't take somebody on that witness stand that is saying one thing on Monday and another thing on Friday, and that's what many of these victims have done. And that just opens another can of worms. And I'm not blaming the victims for that. So please don't take that as, well, Chris don't care about the victims. I'm very concerned about the victims. This is why I believe we're not doing the victims any good by what we're doing with this witch hunt, trying to track down somebody to hang for what happened to them on that island by Jeffrey Epstein or whatever happened with him. He's dead. He's dead. Whether it was by suicide or Hillary sent somebody in that cell to whack him or she herself did it. Ultimately, that don't matter when you get down to it. I'm talking to the church tonight. I'm talking to the church. We need to stand up, but we need to clean up around our own door. We need to clean up around our own door. We need to take a look at our own hearts about what's matter. What matters eternally to us? What matters eternally? What matters about this country? What's the spiritual state of this nation tonight? That's what should be concerning us. That's what should be concerning us. That's what we need to be praying about. Okay. I think I'm done. Pat, I'm with you. They've had these files for 4 years and they didn't do nothing with them, did they? They didn't do anything with them. And Annette, he is not going to be appointing the person of Iran. I don't care what Trump's saying. I don't know where you're getting your information from. He may have, but he's not going to be appointing that leader. That's Iran's call. I think he's made it very clear we're not nation building. The day we start appointing the leader of that nation, we have started. If he does that, he's doing the very same thing that he trashed Bush for about what Bush did in Iraq. Because we did the same thing. He's not going to do that. He makes a lot of remarks. But what he says and what he does sometimes may not be the same thing. I don't care what he said. He's not going to do it. I heard pretty much from some of his people tonight that it's Iran's call how they go. Laura talked to a senator tonight, and she asked him this question. She says, what if they pick a leader we don't like? And he said, that's why we're dismantling their missiles and dismantling their terror structure and dismantling their whatever, because no matter who they picks, they're not going to have the missiles to fire anymore. They're not going to have anything to fire with. So I think ultimately the people of Iran, I pray that they make the right call. But no matter who's coming after this guy, they're going to be playing with matchsticks. They're not going to have missiles and nukes to fire at Israel anymore if we can help it. And I give a tip of the hat to the cowboy hat on that tonight. All righty, I'm done tonight. Did you enjoy the show? And we welcome the Faith Show in. We normally don't air this kind of show on the Faith Network because we do Bible studies and faith shows on there, but the Rumble thing got messed up, or restreamed, so you got a bonus show tonight from us. But we had a good crowd in here, and if you enjoyed the show, put some fire in that house, and we're grateful for you being with us tonight. Good to see Lisa Kay. Good to see you. And Mary says it will never stop if these evil people aren't stopped. Mary, the thing about it is this. I'll agree with that to a degree, my friend. The evil in this world, though, Mary, ultimately, you could put every evil individual that you think is evil in a jail. There'd still be evil on the earth, friend. There'd still be evil on this earth. It's not a bad thing to wish for and hope for. I understand where you're coming from tonight. Evil is not going to stop until Jesus Christ comes back. We can stand up against it, and we must fight against it. We must confront it as the church. We must be a voice against it. We try to do that every night on this show. But I do it with an understanding that there's evil in all of our hearts that needs to be addressed. And we also need to realize that the church cannot very well throw stones at the world if what's going on in that world is going on in the church. And much of it is. And that is something that I'm concerned about more than I am the corruption in our government and the corruption around these nations. I'm far more concerned about the corruption that rests in the hearts of those that call themselves believers. And I'll just leave it at that. I understand your point. I'm not taking issue with your point. But just know that if you took out all the bad guys, that's what the Q movement, that's where the Q movement went so wrong. The Q movement had this view of the world that you had white hats and black hats. And their view was that if you put all the black hats in Gitmo, then the white hats take over the earth, and the white hats bring utopia and bring peace and all this stuff. Let me tell you this, neighbor, the white hats are just as evil as the black hats because their hearts are the same color. Their hearts are the same color. People don't want to hear that. They want a boogeyman. They want an excuse why this world's evil. The world's evil because man's evil, with no exceptions. Man's evil because man has an evil heart. And the only one that can change that heart is not another white hat. The only one that can change the heart of man is Christ. And Jesus Christ can do that if people will but believe him and come to him tonight. And I'll say that on this Thursday night news show and faith show. And that's why we do what we do. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. I'm so grateful to be with you tonight. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Have a good night out there, and I'll see you back here in the morning on the Bible study. Early, by the way, for you Bible students, 9:30 in the morning. I've got a busy afternoon ahead tomorrow, and I'm going to have to get out of here early. And then we'll see you probably late tomorrow night with another show. We're going to try to fix the Starship Enterprise here. If you don't mind, I got to play the Batman clip one more time. If you don't mind. I was laughing so hard. Let me see if I can find the Batman clip. Where's my Batman clip at? Because it's just exactly what the Iranians are doing tonight. If you were over here, we would we would tear you to pieces. Hang on just a second. I've lost it. So let me see if I can play it again real quick here. This is priceless. This is priceless. And again, this is the Joker is Iran and Batman is Trump and Bibi.
Oh, you can say that over the phone, Batman, but if I had you here, I'd pound you to a pulp.
Start pounding, Joker.
60 years ago tonight, the first Batman episode aired. And I always wanted to be Batman. That'd be pretty fun without the cape and the tights. I just wear the cowboy hat. Anyway, have a good night out there. Be blessed out there. We've been grateful to have you. Take care, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Another McFiles show. And next week, we got some great guests, so don't forget to be with us there. And so grateful to have you tonight, and we'll see you later. Have a good night, everybody.